for the new person coming in, first and foremost, it's never succession planning is way more than having documents and getting them signed. It starts years and years before that document even is surfaced. So the mentoring, the grooming starts well before that. So accept it for what it is.
Welcome to the Alphapreneurs podcast. I'm your host, Rayhan Aleem. I'm also the founder of AlphaPro Partners, a bookkeeping business based in Dubai, and Taxstar, a tax technology startup automating corporation tax returns. Join me on each episode as we talk to inspiring Dubai-based entrepreneurs who share their stories, challenges, and secrets on building world-class businesses. I'm thrilled to have Warsha Joshi on the show today. She's a family business mentor, a multi-generational family business coach, and an advisor with over 40 years of experience. She's built and exited 3 businesses of her own and even grew one to be a top 10 great place to work in the MENA region. These days, she's known for guiding founders, second-generational leaders to find clarity, break patterns, and build businesses that last. Warsha, thank you for joining us today. It's been quite some time since you invited me to your podcast and I had to repay this favor back. But more importantly, there's a lot of insights and a lot of things that I want to kind of dig in and kind of share with the audience. I've known you as a mentor and a coach, so you've helped me in my journey as an entrepreneur. You've gone through quite a few life-changing things as well, and I want to touch into that if that's okay. But before we go into some of these topics, let's get like a quick introduction of who you are and what you've done. Your 3rd generation, family business.
Yeah.
You've done business here. You've been in Dubai for quite a long time. And born and raised in India. Married an Australian, Evan. Hi, Evan. So tell us more about yourself.
So yes, you're right. Lived here for a very long time. This is my 30th year.
Oh, wow.
In the UAE. And this country has given me a lot. And this is our time now to give back to this amazing space. So I've seen some changes here, yes. You're right. I'm 3rd generation in my own family business. And that is exactly why I do what I do, is help family businesses in training, mentoring, coaching, and preparing the 2nd generation or the 3rd generation, whatever the case may be, to actually come on board. And I will talk a little bit more about this, not just as a successor, not just as an heir to what has been built, but really as a custodian of a legacy or a family business that is built for legacy. So, and that's a very different mindset that goes into preparing the next generations for that.
Yeah.
And one of the biggest reasons why I do this is because I see that is a one step that didn't happen in my own family's business. So that's a very real thing across the world. The more I started digging into it, the more I saw that this is not a space that is opened up for conversation. So I thought, well, you know what? Here's my opportunity.
Yeah, and I remember you telling me once you actually, from a young age, you used to work in your family business.
I did.
Tell us about what you used to do and how you learned the business as you were studying as well at the same time.
Yeah. So even as a young child, so we're 2 branches of the family business. It was my paternal line, and my mom, ever the entrepreneur, she had her own business. She used to run an electroplating shop. So from silver to nickel, chrome, to from truck parts to jewelry, she had a full-on setup going. And it was a thing. You'd come back home from school, you'd change out of your uniform, and you go straight in. And you sit on the floor and start scrubbing raw material that has come in for plating. And that's how it first started for me, that no matter what, you start from the ground up. So that was my induction into business. But from there, I started learning about how people are possibly the most important thing or most important aspect of your business, and how people in your business play a very different role in a family business unit as opposed to what we now know as a corporate culture and a corporate structure. So how do you look after your people? How do you build trust? How do you build that loyalty? How much you give in order to build that loyalty? So it was a very hands-on experience for me. The other side of the business was entirely different. It was private banking, gold trading, and back in the day, it was literally gold trading. And along with that was a cast iron industry. So it was, again, manufacturing, processing plants. So I had quite a varied experience, if you will. So even right from children, as children, I have two older sisters, and they both run their own businesses. So that's pretty much what we do. But right from the beginning, we were encouraged to always play a role. There was no part of the business that was inaccessible. We were encouraged to ask questions. It was an open conversation right at the dinner table. And so that's how I actually got into getting to know what business is like. I just want to add at this stage, that drew my entire life's work of loving business for the sake of running a business. Because running a business is an art, it's a science, it's a skill, it is everything and then some. So it doesn't matter what you do, it doesn't matter what the business is about, but you got to love running a business.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, I've come across entrepreneurs who hate their business.
Yeah.
And you're kind of stuck when you get to that point because you've got this business and it's running, it's got employees, it's got customers, it's got suppliers, and you're part of this ecosystem and you need to be able to keep it running even though your heart's not in it. And I really kind of, for me to be in that state is quite depressing because, you know, I started as an employee and then I set up my business, and for me that was an amazing journey and I enjoyed that. And when you see that, it's quite a sad position to be in.
Very stressful.
Yeah.
It's quite depressing just to watch somebody be in that position, and it doesn't even come close to what that individual is going through. And that's got ripple effects. It carries on beyond that individual, goes on into the rest of their organization, their teams, their suppliers, you name it. But more importantly, back into their private lives, their families, their social life, their friends. Everything is affected. So you've got to love running a business.
Yeah.
Because it's complex.
Yeah. One of the things I wanted to talk to you about is a lot of our guests, they've come and we've spoken about the journey from employment to entrepreneurship. So I've been through that journey.
Yeah.
But you've actually done the opposite. You went from your family business and then you went into employment.
I did for a bit.
What was your thinking behind that? Why did you want to leave the family business to get a paid job? And what did you learn as an employee that you didn't learn running a business or being part of a business family? What are some of the insights that you came across?
That short span of being employed was when I was finding my feet in the UAE, finding my feet in the new country. Always knowing that this is only a phase. This really is to build up enough capital to start again. So that was never the big game-changing plan ever. What did I learn from it? A very strong realization that I do not like this. I am not cut out for this. This is not what I want to do in life. But it's a wonderful experience just to see what it's like on the other side. So that was really a phase to settle, if you will.
What are some of the things that you didn't like being as an employee? What were some of the things that you didn't enjoy doing, or you didn't enjoy?
It's not so much about what I didn't like about the work. It's what I didn't like about how the human element is taken away. And we're complex beings. And somewhere within that corporate structure, we cease to be recognized, seen as human beings with all our complexities.
Yep.
But we're expected to fit into some sort of a mold that matches someone's idea out there. And you're put into this ladder, if you will, because if you're not growing, then you're stagnant. And then it's a lot of social conditioning It's a lot of cultural conditioning that is drilled in. And I think, well, this can't be it. There is more to life. We're all, as human beings, we are capable of creating the life that we want. So where is that freedom? It's interesting. We talk about this. I took an Uber over here and I had a chat with my Uber buddy. And we were talking about exactly this, that we all are born with immense amount of capabilities. So what stops us from going ahead and achieving this dream? So that is possibly one of the things that I thought, no, this is not, because I've never known living within such rigid confines, if you will.
Yeah.
And I thought, I know I'm better than this. I know I have the capabilities, but somewhere you either got to diminish those capabilities or diminish that voice or lower that voice to fit into something. I think, well, no, thank you. I'm forever grateful for those opportunities that helped me set up. That wasn't the life for me.
Yeah, no, I today I had a meeting in a large corporate office and I was walking through the office and I could see everyone's got their head down and, working away, and kind of reminded me back in the day when I was in corporate as well, and I just couldn't work in that environment anymore because I like interacting with people. Although I'm an accountant, I do like interacting with people. I do like, a bit of banter here and there.
Yes.
And I could see it's not something that that would resonate for me. But I mean, for that employee who's looking to set up a business and they're in that corporate environment, what would you say is the key things they need to think about or work on to prepare themselves for entrepreneurship? Because it is a lot of employees who become an employee who becomes an entrepreneur, they might be technically good at something. So in my case, I'm an accountant, right?
Yeah.
And I built a business around it.
You have.
But
quite well done and brilliant business, quite successfully.
Thank you very much.
And very easily done.
Not easy.
Okay. It looks quite effortless from the outside.
There's a lot. So basic. I'm a duck on the water with my legs just swimming like mad. What are the key? If you was to advise someone who goes from an employee to an entrepreneur, what are the 3 key things that you would advise them to prepare for or be ready for coming out of the corporate culture and going into the big bad world of entrepreneurship?
The big beautiful world of entrepreneurship. You're coming out of the big bad world. So first, and one of the crucial things to understand here is when you get out of the corporate world, you're a small part, or whatever part you are, but you're a part of a very large machine that is run by somebody. So somewhere you got to be prepared for getting out of that comfort zone, knowing that there's a X amount going to drop into your bank account every month because somebody else is making that happen. So when you leave that and say, well, I really don't want to work for this organization or this particular individual, I'm going to go do this on my own because I'm capable and I'm better at this. Forgetting that you are, for probably the first 3 years, you will be doing everything from sweeping the floors to putting a suit and tie on and shaking hands to get business. So you're literally going to be doing everything. You're building relationships, you're maintaining relationships, you're delivering, you're raising invoices, you're everything that whoever was doing to make sure you get your salary, you are now it. And most people are not prepared for the immense amount of work and the pressure that goes with it. So first, get to know and really be prepared to think, what am I actually getting into? Am I getting into business to get out of what I think is very solid confines that I'm sitting in? Or am I going in to say, I'm done with this and I'm prepared for this and I'm going to learn along the way? Because the corporate culture also puts people in some sort of a comfort zone. And I've noticed this quite a bit because titles mean a lot. When you grow through the ranks, you're You get your corner office, you get whatever office, you get into a comfort zone knowing I am somebody. And when you get out and you start fresh, you are nobody. And you've got to start from fresh. So you've got to be prepared to leave that mantle away. Because when you're here, you are everything. You are the name, the face, the brand, you're everything. So that's point number one. Point number two is when and this is so interesting, within a very close network, I've seen this happen so many times. People come out of the corporate scenario and they're not, when in a job, you're not equipped to go out and expand your network. You mix with the same people, you go out with the same people, and you have your social network. But put yourself in a room full of absolutely fresh people and say, now go out and network and get business in. We're really not equipped for that because we're not trained to ask for business. We're not trained to sell because selling is an art. Selling is a mindset. So expanding your network becomes a very big part of getting out of your comfort zone as well, because that's where the real magic is. You got to get out more and get out from behind your laptop or whatever it is that you work in and go out, put yourself out there. And third, most importantly, people love what they do. They just don't like dealing with people. When you run a business, you're going to have people there. You're going to have to shift from being a technician to actually becoming a leader on your own right. Becoming a great team. I don't want to say team player because it doesn't really expand the whole complexity of what it means to to bring people into your company, help them grow, build them to a stage that everybody is running the company together with full accountability. And it takes a special kind of awareness, self-awareness to raise your team to that level. So it's a massive learning curve. So be prepared for that.
I'd like to add, obviously, one thing that I think an employee should have when they transition to becoming an entrepreneur is, someone like yourself, a coach or mentor, to help them go through that journey as well. Because for me, you never know, no one ever has a right answer of what to do, right? And when you're going through uncharted territory, the coach and mentor may not necessarily have the answers, because you probably have the answers, but they will help you find those answers that you need to help you grow and help you succeed in what you're trying to succeed. And not only that, what they also help you do is they can watch what you're doing and give you observations. So, world-class athletes that will have coaches, whether you're Michael Jordan or Tiger Woods or, Lewis Hamilton or Cristiano Ronaldo or Messi. From your experience as being a coach and a mentor as well, how have you seen that change in entrepreneurs? You've coached me as well. You've mentored me, and a few others that we know who are mutual friends. How do you see that play out as an entrepreneur looking to get a mentor or a coach? What kind of things should they think about? And can you give us some examples of a success story of how that has played out?
First of all, thank you for picking up that it's always useful to have a coach. Everybody needs a coach, whatever you do in life. Because a coach or a mentor possibly brings up a couple of things. One, a mirror, to hold up a mirror to say, this is what's actually happening. So it leads quite nicely into that self-awareness space that I was talking about earlier. Second, there's always an external perspective. What does it look from the outside? And at this point, I also want to mention there's a video that's circulating. At some point, I'll send you the link. There's a very short, I think it was a TED talk by a surgeon in the US, 𝗪𝗪𝗪𝗪𝗪𝗪𝗪𝗪𝗪𝗪𝗪𝗪𝗪𝗪𝗪𝗪𝗪𝗪𝗪𝗪𝗪𝗪𝗪𝗪𝗪𝗪𝗪𝗪𝗪𝗪𝗪𝗪𝗪𝗪𝗪𝗪𝗪𝗪𝗪𝗪𝗪𝗪𝗪𝗪𝗪𝗪𝗪𝗪𝗪𝗪𝗪𝗪𝗪𝗪𝗪𝗪𝗪𝗪𝗪𝗪𝗪𝗪𝗪𝗪𝗪𝗪𝗪𝗪𝗪𝗪𝗪𝗪𝗪𝗪𝗪𝗪𝗪𝗪𝗪𝗪𝗪𝗪𝗪𝗪𝗪𝗪𝗪𝗪𝗪𝗪𝗪𝗪𝗪𝗪𝗪 It's top of his game, but he got a coach.
And he's an employee basically as well.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But he got a coach. And there were lots of questions to think, well, why do you need a coach? And he actually did a whole TED talk on that. It says that I got a coach because the coach was watching how I even hold the scalpel and how I make a cut, and was watching and making fine tuning, precision tuning, even in that. I says that pretty much meant saving someone's life. So why wouldn't I? And I cannot rest on my laurels to say I've grown up to here, and of course I know what I'm doing, because then we get complacent. So it's just, if you haven't seen it, it's a short clip, but it's absolutely brilliant.
We'll share it in the show notes.
I will, yeah, and I'll send you the link. It's fantastic. And so on that note, yes, because most entrepreneurs, first and foremost, the whole coaching and the mentoring space has gained a whole lot more awareness than it ever was before. So people are more open to being coached, asking for help. Because again, that's the vulnerability that used to come up in the last decade or so, that why am I asking for help? If I ask for help, if I get a coach, that means I'm not able to do what I'm doing. So that has changed dramatically. And people are more open to listening. People are more open to learning now. And entrepreneurs even more so, because they also have got to a stage where they realize that when you start a business, people's lives depend on you. So your mistakes are going to have a very strong ripple effect across everything that they do. So why wouldn't you get a coach? So if you asked about a success story, there are so many, and even in the smallest sense. And I want to move away from coaching an entrepreneur purely on business, because I want to open a different aspect of coaching. There is a particular first gen, and now is good 20 years into business, and I've been coaching him for a while now. One of the earliest scenarios that happened was, why I was brought in was there was a pattern that was showing up. Now, the data tells us what is happening, but the patterns, for me as a coach, tells me why is it happening. So the business would grow up to a certain point and then collapse. Build it back up again. It would grow up to a certain point and collapse. And naturally, we would then look at external factors to say, well, the market is this, and the price is this, and there's just the taxes, and there's every external aspect that is put on the table to assess, evaluate, dissect everything. And yet the code wasn't being cracked. So I sat back and I had a very long conversation, 2 or 3, and I said, okay, so I want to put all the external factors aside just for a bit. Talk to me about you. Because again, we forget the complexity that us as humans bring into our business. And eventually what came out of those conversations was, there was a block on expansion. There was a fear of success. So
this is a mental block.
This is a mental block. Because it didn't know how to handle success beyond that point. Because that meant more complexity coming our way, and didn't want it. Never said it out loud, but knew that didn't know how to handle, so didn't want it. It was such a big revelation. Alhamdulillah, he's really grown. This has now gone into a multi-million-dollar expansion, and it's cracked well beyond that, all because it had very little to do with external factors. It was, we are humans, and we bring all our baggage with us to work. So coaching goes well beyond the mechanics of business. It really is training you, mentoring you through, in spite of us, how do we get to that success point?
Yeah, no, that's great story, great point.
Yeah.
So Warsha, you're an expert in family businesses. You know, you've been your 3rd generation family business. And as you mentioned, your mother and your father also had businesses as well. I want to dig into a few kind of, not controversial, but a bit more deeper topics around family businesses and what goes on. obviously, even if you don't have a family business, when you're talking about money and family, it's still a difficult topic to talk about. And now you have a business and it's a lot more difficult. There are now, as we discussed offline, there are businesses that don't have a succession.
Yeah.
And there's a wealth transfer happening of this decade, as you mentioned. But, there's a new generation, and I may just come out university and my father or mother will have a big business and they want me to go into that business and start, learning the ropes and maybe at some point take over. You, having worked with lots of different family businesses, what advice would you give that 20-year-old who's just about to step into the family business full time? They may have done, bits and pieces part time, but now they're going in full time. Yes. How can you prepare them for that? What kind of things do they need to be prepared for? And how can you set them up for success?
I give as near a real life experience as I can. So, first and foremost, again, remember we were talking about leaving that mantle out. So when that 20-odd-year-old young second generation steps into the family business, do start from the ground up. So get to know not just the ropes of the business, but really shed that mantle that you are the owner's successor and start from the ground up like any other employee. There are two parts to this. One, it's a great equalizer. Second, that goes a long way into building the trust and the loyalty of the people who've been there for a lot longer probably than how old that young individual is. Because gaining that loyalty is a make or break of eventually the success of that individual taking over. And the second is also understand that you're not the heir. Your successor, sure, you're taking over from somebody. But family businesses, anybody who runs a family business is a steward. Because in a sense, a family business, while it succeeds, it's a legacy that has been carried through. From however old. So you look at some of the really old family businesses in existence across the world. Some of them have been around for at least a couple of 100 years. So why do they succeed? Because whoever sits in that chair is groomed for stewardship, not just for succession. You're a custodian of what's been built. You're preparing that business to succeed in your times and for the next 50 years. So then you can also do the same for your successor. So remember that when you're stepping in, you're not stepping in because you're the owner's somebody, but you owe it to the business to be a steward. So humility goes a long way into taking over, because family business operates in a very different value systems. It's a very strong value-based business. It's a very strong conversation, trust, loyalty, human-oriented business. So for the new person coming in, first and foremost, it's never, succession planning is way more than having documents and getting them signed. It starts years and years before that document even is surfaced. So the mentoring, the grooming starts well before that. So accept it for what it is. Sure, you will have your ideas. Sure, you would want to implement them. Sure, you see the world in a very different light from what your previous generation did. Everything is on the line and everything is on the table. The second thing, also be fearless about establishing your own identity. So it's a very fine line that initially you're walking, because you want to respect the blood, sweat, and tears that went into building the initial stage of the business. And at the same time, you also see certain things that can be done better. This happens when you're like 6-8 months, a year into the business, and suddenly you start saying, well, why are we still doing something in a way? And then the baton passes on to the older generation or the original founder, where letting go becomes a real issue. Because while you trust your successor, there is an immense amount of trust because it's his family, but the trust and the respect hasn't been earned yet. So back to the successor, know that you got to earn that space for yourself.
Yeah.
You got to earn the space not just for the parents who have started the business, more importantly, for their trusted people within the business. Because they've given their life towards this business. So walk that fine line, put your ego out of the door, leave your ego in the car or wherever it is, and come with absolute humility, willing to learn the ropes as a custodian. Because the more you show up as a steward, the better your chances are of that integration happening sooner and smoother than ever.
I want to flip this question now.
Yeah.
Because you got me thinking about my business.
Oh, yeah.
And so I didn't inherit my business, right? I'm a founder of my business. And I guess I don't think anyone plans to have a family business. I think it just happens, right?
It just happens.
You start the business, kids grow up. Hey, John, why don't you come into the business? Or
John probably says no.
Or you bring your wife into your business or your husband into the business.
Yeah.
You may bring a nephew or niece. And I guess no one ever sets up a business knowing that the family's going to go in.
No.
But do you... and we know the pros and cons, right? If you've got a family business, you're more aligned to make it work amongst other things. But the downsides are, you may be slow to making decisions, and there might be certain egos you need to massage, and you don't have a choice. A family. I went to a talk once by a Careem employee, and he said, Careem's not a family, it's the champions.
Yeah.
You can't fire your family.
Yeah.
But champions, they are looking to, they want to be world-class champions, right? And the moment you're not a champion, you're not part of the you're not part of the organization or the culture. So do you think entrepreneurs should actively plan, should I get my family to come in? Or should they think about, okay, I need to get my key execs to be, leveled up, promoted, so then they can continue the stewardship of the business? What are your kind of thoughts behind that?
Both depending on who's in your family. Both depending on how you see this business growing and becoming your legacy. So and you're right, expanding within the family is way more complex than it appears from the outside. Because then you have siblings and you have extended family, and then you have shareholders and you have shareholders board, and it's wonderful, and yet it is so complex. So depends on whether you want to go down that road. But as you very rightly said, as a first-gen founder, what is the next step? Getting your key exec. So who sits in that place is question number 25 down the line.
Yeah, of course, yeah.
It's about how are you preparing this? Do you even have a vision of how long you want this business to exist? Carrying your legacy. Or eventually are you saying, well, I'm going to run this as long as I can, and I'm going to make sure that whoever takes over later is equipped to take over up to a certain extent, then I really don't care what happens after that. Or you say, right, I'd like this business to run for at least 3 generations on. So what needs to happen today, and how do I build this for that? So instantly our thoughts would go to, how do I set up the mechanics of the business? It goes well deeper than that to say, what values and ethics am I building this business on? What is the higher core purpose on this? So most people think strategy is a wonderful thick document that comes from consultants. And yet sometimes, no, in most times, strategy is a thinking, creative process. It really is about, why am I doing this? What is the overall impact I want to leave on the business? And this is where family businesses come very strongly forward, as everything is about profit for purpose. What is that purpose? Where is this impacting lives across the board? So what is that legacy that you want to leave? What values are you building this business on? What ethics, what codes of conduct are you saying, this is how we behave, this is how we show up in life? Those are some of the areas that then gives you that insight and to be able to look around you and say, well, does anyone in my family fit over here? Will I even be able to hold this conversation with somebody in my family? If not, I know there is somebody out there. Because if I have, there's I don't know where that saying is from, but build and they shall come. That's pretty much what family businesses exist on. So build, knowing that eventually if you can visualize that strategy, there is somebody waiting to step into those shoes. So building that first and then finding out who it is comes much, much later. So rather than looking at the mechanics of how do you set up a business for transferring, look at what you're building the business on.
Yeah, that's a great perspective. From an entrepreneur, like even in my point of view, I'm focusing on that as well. I'm focusing on building the business and then deciding what happens in terms of, is the family ready for it? But I'm quite tough with my family in the sense that if I bring them onto the business, they got to be working harder than the employees.
You bet.
They need to. Employees may come and go, but your family's going to be there. And if my kind of thinking now, anyways, you got to be working 10 times harder than the employees, because this is your business at the end of the day.
Yeah.
They don't have a stake in the business. But I'm also kind of in my mind looking at who are the future leaders within the organization, and accelerating them to these leadership positions. Because as we said, and as we keep saying, I never say Alphapreneurs Partners is mine. I always say Alphapreneurs Partners is, even in the legal definition, it's its own business, right? It's its own legal form.
You bet.
So it's not my business. It is Alphapreneurs Partners. I happen to be the CEO and the majority owner, but it doesn't necessarily mean that it's mine. It just means that I'm taking this and growing it. Because once you have a business, it's deeper. It's like having children. It's having a family, right? Like you've got suppliers, you've got reputation, you've got employees. You're legally obliged to do certain things. It pays for your livelihood. And if you do not look after this entity today, it won't look after you tomorrow. And it needs to, it will have its own legacy.
It will.
So it needs to have that leadership that will continue it, or you exit, right?
Yeah.
And I think we've gone really deep in this conversation in the sense that it's not about you setting up a business and then passing it on to your family members. It could be your key execs, but ultimately this is a entity that you have to look after now.
Yeah.
And if you don't look after it, you're not doing it justice. And I think it just goes back to the basic fundamentals of what is a company and why you're doing it. So I think that's...
Hey, can I peel back a couple more layers on that, please? It's like peeling onion layers. The more you peel, the more you cry. But sometimes it's good to cry because then you get to getting to the heart of the meat of the onion. But a couple of things that you said really struck, and this is really very good that you said, once you set up an organization, when you set up, the minute you get a trade license, it's a separate entity. And you've got to start thinking about it like this. You happen to be the shareholder, but in no way, shape or form can you claim absolute ownership of that, because then you're hindering the growth of that business.
100%.
Because a business will only grow as much as the people in the business are growing. And as majority shareholder or whatever that role is, in many ways, that individual influences how much the business grows. So very nicely said, absolutely true. Because eventually, it's almost like, and as you said, we're going deeper in the conversation. It's a collective consciousness that evolves when the company becomes, is treated like this, because everybody's consciousness is now involved in growing that organization. So, and in no way can we claim ownership on that. Second, you were talking about growing key leaders within the organization. How are typically leaders grown? You pick somebody who's really great at what they do, and hopefully also look at how great are they at people, being with people, getting the best out of people, inspiring people to do what their team is doing. In many ways, as people grow through the ranks, it becomes less about your technical skills and it becomes more about being a great human being.
I don't do accounting anymore.
It's true, isn't it? Because after a while, it becomes less about that.
Yeah.
It entirely becomes about who you are, what you're bringing to the table. How is your leadership coherence, if you will? So how are your thoughts? How are your emotions? How are your sovereignty in decision-making, your agency there? And how are you allowing that to filter through the ranks? Because that's your sole role after that. So when you're growing future leaders, that is what's actually also going to be transferred to those future leaders.
Yeah, 100%, yeah.
And if that step is missed, then we're basically adding pressure by promoting people, but not equipping them with these skills. So it's quite possible in businesses like yours with such an aware individual at the head of the business that you will go through these motions, and it's wonderful. And whether it's those key leaders in the company or your family, a couple of things to note also is, in fact, more so if it's your family, I like that you said they got to work harder. Not just work harder, but also be completely open and transparent at being held accountable. Because many things slip through the gaps because somebody has the same family name. So 3 things at the top of my list: discipline, ownership, and accountability.
Yeah, no, that's great. Great.
Those 3 things, and then it does not matter who you are. Because at that stage, you're not related to me. You are part of that collective consciousness that is the business. So it is everybody's role to hold these 3 very high on their agenda: discipline, ownership, and accountability. That brings me, if I may, just digress just a little bit. When we talk about culture within a company, culture is what you accept. If you accept someone coming in late for meetings and always have an excuse, or someone not showing up for a client meeting, or reports not coming in, whatever the case may be, the more we accept, the more that becomes part of the culture without even it being written on the walls as, well, this is our amazing culture, but what are we also accepting? And putting discipline, ownership, accountability right at the top then gives a very clean filter to say, what are we accepting and what are we absolutely saying no to? So I just wanted to peel those layers on what you were saying. If you get family in, they got to work harder, not just work harder, absolutely be open to be held accountable.
Yeah, no, greatly put.
Yeah.
So yeah, thank you for sharing that. I now want to go more into you as a person. I think you have tremendous tenacity and determination, and you're a real strong person. I want to talk about, if I may, you've had cancer a few times, and it's been quite life-threatening, but at the same time you've still managed to run the business. You've still you still have customers, you have employees, you have multiple businesses as well, not just one. I want to dig into your tenacity and your determination and your unwilling to give up. For many individuals and entrepreneurs, getting into a life-threatening position would mean they just stop everything and just focus on one thing, but you was able to, it didn't happen to you once, it happened to you multiple times. So how did it affect you as an entrepreneur when you had the diagnosis, and how were you then able to build yourself up to say, you know what, this is not going to affect me, I'm going to fight and I'm going to continue and move on and kind of push ahead in my life as well?
There are a couple of words that you said sort of made me think about how people view this scenario as. But first of all, I want to say that everybody has their own journey. Everybody's journey is just as important and just as valuable for them. And everybody looks at life from their own lens. My way of looking at life has a very different lens. That's just me. Path of least resistance. So I very rarely use the words, I got to fight through this, I got to push through this, because that just presupposes that you're pushing against something, you're fighting against, and you're resisting. I choose not to put labels on it. So for me, that was just a situation. Situations happen. If this was any other situation, we'd treat it exactly as a situation, and you work through it and you come out on the other side. So it was a situation. I had to go through the motions because I knew I'm going to come out on the other side. The one thing that perhaps I inherited from my mom or whoever is knowing that I'm here for a much bigger impact on the world. So this really is a very small situation. It's like a bump on the road, and you go through it, because I know the picture is much, much bigger than this for me. So yes, cancer happened 3 times. I fell off my horse, broke my head, survived that. That was a time when I said, nah, if I've survived that, I'm here for a much, much longer time. So I'm good. But and yeah, you're right. It's just, it's challenging to look beyond today. And I go back to when we were talking about how do you set your business up for succession, is when you start keeping an eye on the much larger picture, these little seemingly large mountains today become smaller bumps to cross over. Because is it really about me, or is it the impact that I can make on someone else's life? Because it's very rarely about me. It's very easy to make everything about ourselves and then get caught in that internal whirlwind. But the minute you choose to say, is it really about me, because I'm also part of that collective consciousness in the world, we start to look at world differently. One of the things that still is if I'm alive today to watch the sunrise, everything is great in the world. If I have the ability to sit here, have a wonderful conversation with an old friend and put a smile on my face, this is wonderful. What do I have to complain about? So everything is a choice. It's a decision that we make. There's always a fork in the road. It's about what fork you choose to walk on. I choose to walk on the path that says, is everything absolutely amazing in life? If I choose to look at it, yeah, it is. Because again, it is as amazing as I choose to make it. That's how I'm here.
That's great insights and great perspective that you've shared on. Thank you for sharing. One of the things that I've been through a few adversities as well, and one of the things that helped me get through it is those small wins. Yeah. So sometimes you have a big problem you need to solve, and instead of looking at that big problem you got to solve, there's lots of small things you need to do. Get through those small wins, and eventually that big problem is going to be overcome. And that worked for me. But I guess that works for me because I'm a doer. I like getting things done. I'm sure there are different other personality types where it's more the emotional side that kind of helps them. But that helped me, and that helped me, get through some of the adversities that I've faced.
Don't get me wrong. I'm pretty much a a very strong doer in my own way as well. I cannot sit still. Every day, that's one of my very strong values in life. Every day, if I'm not growing, then I'm stagnating. But constantly evolving, learning, being curious about what's next in the world. Where is where the world is going? What do I not know about the market I'm serving? So I'm constantly on that path as well. So yes, small wins absolutely matter a lot. For me, it's the constant hunger, the constant curiosity about growing is what keeps me going every day, every single day. And yeah, I never stood still, even during treatment. I was working, I had my team. They were amazing, they still are. I was delivering, and my work actually keeps me going. I love my work. I don't think I say this enough. I absolutely love what I do. And I see myself doing this for however long I am alive, and eventually possibly dropping dead on stage talking about what I do and why I love doing what I do. So I love my work, possibly more than anything else, other than my horses, but that's a different. But yeah, it. As long as you absolutely love what you do, you love the space that you've created for yourself, then everything else is mechanics.
Yeah, no. Thank you for sharing that. I want to now move towards this region, Dubai. I've been here 9 years. You've been here 30. I owe my success, family life to this, to this great nation. And you've obviously seen the changes from, 30 years ago. We would be sitting in the desert, right?
Absolutely.
And
large sand dunes.
Yeah. And you've seen a lot of, there's a whole wave of people coming into the UAE now.
Yeah.
Pre-COVID, the population was 2.5 million. Now it's 4 million, and it's going to grow. They're looking to get, they forecasting that there's 700,000 odd businesses in the UAE now. They're forecasting it to be 2 million in the next few years. So a tremendous amount of change is happening every month, every week, every day.
There is.
Tell us about, how have you seen that transition from when you first came to the UAE to now? Because, you've been here, you've seen that you've done that. What are the things that you would encourage entrepreneurs who are coming here that, you've experienced being here and being in this country?
Don't come here to make a fast buck. Look beyond the glitz and glamour. That is obviously in your face when you come here. There is so much to learn in this country. There is so much to learn in the way this country does business. And I keep going back to family businesses because that is what essentially been the pillars of this business, this country. It's those family businesses, that old school way of creating relationships before getting into a transaction. There is value in that. And many times I tell people, when you come here, when someone says, I want to meet you for coffee, actually go for the coffee. The more coffees you have, the more conversations you have, the better you will get at building that business. Don't look to go in straight into transaction mode. Also, as much as possible, try not to give in to the hustle culture, because that is one of the quickest way to burn out. So you're in Asia. So if you're coming in here from Asia, then actually be as Asian as you can, because you are in Asia. Business is done differently over here. People want to get to know you first. They want to like you, trust you, know you before they can give you a piece of business. So make time for it. It's not about quick conversations turning into quick cash. So bring patience, bring empathy, bring relationship building, open yourself to old school business. There is so much to learn in this country. And be open to different cultures. I mean, this is one of the best times to be alive in one of the best countries and My heart belongs to Dubai. I know I'm saying this on a podcast. Feel free to edit it if you want to. But I just say, I feel there is everything that you can wish for in this one city. Be open to new cultures. Be open to meeting new people. Be open to learning from other people. Come with your experience, but also don't come with a cup full. Be ready to empty it so you can bring in some fresh experience, fresh knowledge, and truly bringing that global experience on your portfolio, on your CV if you want to. But don't come here to make a quick buck. Those days are gone. Come here to stay, because this country will actually help you build a business that lasts for a very long time.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of entrepreneurs who came here for a short amount of time. And I mean, when I first came, I think there was a transition between some of the employees who were on the very high wages, the full package, and, that changed to normalizing to global kind of salaries and packages as well. And back then, as you know, it was about, I'm only going to be here for 2 years or 3 years, and then I'm going to go. Even with certain businesses as well, they set up a business, and the attitude was, I'm only going to do it for 2 years, and I'm going to sell, and I'm going to go. But if you look at some of the businesses that have been around for, since the beginning, a lot of them are expat families who've been here for 20 years, 30 years, 10 years, and they've grown massive businesses, and they've been successful as well. So I don't think you should discount the fact that this is now a place where you can build a sustainable business that lasts a long time. And as you said, the city has everything to offer you now. And therefore, if you can grow a business here and you can develop it here, you can also expand to other regions as well, because you've learned all of the different cultures and communication styles and business that happen here as well.
Yeah. And you're right when you said a lot of the businesses over here are expat-driven businesses. They're founded by expatriates. One of my clients is that business has been around for 47 years now.
Wow.
And they're well into their second generation now. So that transition has already started, and it's ready for that transfer. And it's amazing to watch that happen. Everything. And it's one of those stories where I came to the country on a plane on a whim with just literally a few dollars in those days, with rupees, but really not much. And look where they are now. So opportunities are everywhere. It's how you look at it. And you're totally right. Many, many people came here, whether it's a job or a business. It was 3 years was the limit, because back then the visa was 3 years. So I'm going to be here for 3 years and then I'm going to go. I think, why would you want to? If you want to make an opportunity, every time we say, well, the grass is green somewhere else, but we absolutely fail to see that you have the ability to make the grass as green as you want to, right where you're standing.
Yeah, 100%.
So put what you got in it, and rewards are here for you to reap.
Warsha, you've been an amazing guest. Thank you for joining me. And it's been quite some time since we've met, and you put me on your podcast quite a few years back, so I had to
that was ages ago.
Return that favor. Before we wrap up, what's the best way that our listeners can get in touch, and what are the things that you're working on currently?
First of all, Rayhan, thank you very much for inviting me for this amazing conversation. And what a great opportunity to meet again. It's been a while. We live in the same city, and yet we don't seem to meet very often, but thank you. Easiest way to get in touch with me is on LinkedIn. Drop me a DM. I'm right there. And what am I working on? So looking beyond the mechanics of the business, it's just, I've been noticing patterns, noticing trends, and I'm working on a few frameworks that I've been developing on resolving the human complexity that comes from working within families and growing that leadership base. So the couple of frameworks that I'm putting together is tentatively named the laws of becoming and conscious commerce. the laws of becoming really is about the coherence of how internally, how aligned are we at ourselves? How much baggage are we carrying? How radically aware of how we are and how we show up as? And so working through that and allowing ourselves a space to let go of the baggage, because we are who we are and we take ourselves to work. And when work doesn't work, we wonder why. The clue lies in you. So I'm working a lot on that to expand that framework and really expand to see how this is now going to start becoming a turning point. And the second, the complementary side to it is the conscious commerce, is the congruence of it and how it actually shows up in business. How do you align not just the finance, but the execution and the leadership and the innovation and that goes with it, but turn this into a regenerative, circular commerce, as opposed to taking from the business to how do you, rather than taking a penny out of the business, to how can that penny be regenerated for generations to come. So I'm working a lot on this, and the next step really is to continue to put that in the public space through conversations like these, through keynotes, to eventually a book. Who knows?
Your second book?
My second book.
So just in case the listeners don't know, the first book is Dare to Scale.
Yeah.
I read that book. Amazing book.
Thank you.
Can't believe you're doing a second one. So
yeah, that's very much in the making now. So the initial compendium is already ready. There are white papers that I've now sent out for assessment. So there should be a book coming through.
Yeah, no, once it's out, we'll do another episode and we'll put it here. So we can talk about it.
That we will. Thank you so much for having me.
No, it's been a pleasure.
It's a wonderful conversation.
I've really enjoyed this conversation. And we're going to bring you in when your book comes out as well.
When the book comes out. That's a promise.
Yep.
Thank you, Rayhan.
Thanks. Thank you for joining us on the Alphapreneurs podcast. I hope you enjoyed the show. Please subscribe and give us a 5-star rating and a review. Your feedback is appreciated. For show notes and more, check the link in the description and connect to me on LinkedIn and search for Rayhan Aleem. See you in the next episode.